Hello, I'm Stephen Bias, Music Director of the North Mississippi Symphony Orchestra. The coronavirus pandemic caused us to cease performing live in March of 2020, and we've been working hard ever since to return to performing for you, our wonderful patrons, ever since. The current state of COVID in our region and in the country and indeed throughout the world means that we can't gather to perform live for you. So we made the decision to record our performances and present them virtually here on WTVA and also on our social media sites. We've assembled the orchestra at the University of Mississippi in Oxford, Mississippi, at the beautiful Ford Center for the Performing Arts. This wonderful hall affords us the space to allow the orchestra to be properly distanced for their safety. We're grateful for the university's support and also especially for the help of the director of the Ford Center, Julia Aubrey, as well as the chair of the Department of Music at the University of Mississippi, Nancy Mariah Balish. We will return to performing live as soon as it's safe to do so. In the meantime, we hope you enjoy these virtual performances of the North Mississippi Symphony Orchestra. The first work on this program is by English composer Ralph Vaughan Williams, titled The Lark Ascending, based on a poem of the same name from the 1880s by poet George Meredith. The work depicts the call of the lark, but also portrays the flight of this beautiful bird. The piece was originally written for solo violin and piano in 1914 on the eve of World War I, but was later expanded for full orchestra and solo violin. You'll hear in the beginning the violin play the call of the lark, and then play a beautiful soaring melody over the orchestra in what could only be described as expert and deft orchestration, gossamer-like, that allows the violin to indeed soar above the orchestra. It's one of the most beautiful and sublime pieces in the repertoire and features the concertmaster of the North Mississippi Symphony Orchestra, Jenny Gregoire. This is The Lark Ascending by Ralph Vaughan Williams.
I'm Margaret Ann Murphy, and I've been with the symphony ever since its very early beginning in 1971. It's been a joyful trip for me. I've been involved in every phase of the work for the symphony except playing an instrument, which I never did very well. I studied the piano and I studied the violin at age 75, and I actually learned a lot, but I never played well. But it was very helpful to me, and every aspect of the work that I've been involved in for the symphony has been a great pleasure for me and enriched my life. Wade LeGrone was the founder of our orchestra, and he came out to my house. He called me. He was a practicing lawyer in Tupelo, and he called me one afternoon early and said, "Are you going to be at home at 5 o'clock? I have something I want to talk to you about." And I said, I will be at home and I'll be glad to see you. But I wondered what in the world he was going to talk to me about. Well, he came with legal pads and legal size papers rolled up and so forth. And he said, I am organizing a symphony and I want you to be on the board. And I think you're a natural for it. And I said, I don't know anything about what to do for a symphony. I've been going to symphonies all my life. I grew up in New Orleans, and we had children's concerts, and we were bused from all over the city 3 or 4 times a year for concerts. But that was my extent, the extent of my knowledge about the symphony. So, but anyway, he said, you don't need to worry. I know what I have to do and what is to be done, and I just want you on the board to help me sell it to the community. And I said, well, I know how to sell. And I know I will enjoy being part of it. So that was the beginning in the Murphy living room in Park Monceau early in the summer of 1971.
The year after it was founded, I became involved because of the influence of Margaret Ann Murphy and Edith Thomas and Jeannie and Wade LeGrone, and have been involved ever since. I just so love good music, and it was it provided opportunities for me here to be able to have good music in my life, because as I grew up, I always thought I was going to live in New York and go to the opera every Saturday afternoon. That did not happen, but it provided those kinds of opportunities for me living here in Tupelo, and it was just an amazing thing.
My name is Nancy Diffie, and I've been involved with the Tupelo Symphony for 30 plus years. When I moved here, we moved here, I had been involved with a symphony in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I was invited to join the Symphony League, which is the women's group for the symphony that helps raise money for the symphony. And I started working on projects for the Symphony League, and the first project was a haunted house. I co-chaired, and we had we got two old houses on North Broadway and to use, and we decided to have a preview party, and we sent out very sophisticated invitations, and the preview party was to be in one of the houses and the haunted house in the other. and we proceeded to clean the house, and they were very, very dirty. And in the house that we were to have the preview party, there was a big hole in the floor, and we got a dining table to cover the hole. And then we didn't have any electricity, so we put votive candles around in the windows and served the food and beverages when people came, and then they left the preview party and we invited them to come through and go through the haunted house. It was very successful, a lot of fun.
Back in 1992, there was an opening for a substitute player on a particular concert, and at the time Eric Knight was the music director and Cass Patrick was the orchestra manager. I got a call and saying they needed a bass trombone player for a particular concert, and I played. And that led me to play in some other jobs with Mr. Wiki Sparks, who was the orchestra, he was the executive director over the orchestra members. And Cass had to leave to do a doctorate at Auburn for his degree. And Wiki called me to his office one day, and we talked for 3 or 4 hours about the job, and he offered me the job. And that's how I got started managing the orchestra. And after the job description, I remember he says, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, Wiki, I can't think of a better position to be in to get to play in this orchestra than to be the orchestra manager." And he started laughing, and a year after that, their opening came up available, and I started playing. But I've been managing since '93.
In 1943, Elizabeth Sprague Coolidge commissioned American composer Aaron Copland to write a ballet for the great dancer and choreographer Martha Graham. Graham and Copland discussed many plots for the ballet, finally settling on a plot that centered around a newly constructed farmhouse in the Pennsylvania hills for a newly married young couple. The ballet contains episodes of their life, or the beginning of their life, full of excitement, exaltation, fear, and many other emotions. There are so many beautiful melodies written by Copland in this ballet, all his own original compositions, except for a quote of the Shaker hymn tune, Simple Gifts, at the end of the ballet. And the words to this song depict the spirit and the scope of this ballet perfectly. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place that's right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. This is a suite from the iconic ballet Appalachian Spring by Aaron Copland.
I learned very early in working with the orchestra that musicians who have the training that allows them to play in a symphony orchestra don't actually have many opportunities to play unless they live in a big city where there is an orchestra. But even so, the orchestra can only hire so many. And so I realized that they would do anything to get to play. And so as much of our mission was to found an orchestra, it was also to provide opportunities for trained musicians to play.
Seldom outside of major metropolitan areas do you have fine quality symphony orchestras. And the fact that we've had one and have been able to sustain it for 50 years is nothing short of a miracle. The quality is outstanding. Stephen Bias has done an amazing job these last 10, 12 years that he's been here, and has really raised it to another performance level.
To have a professional organization to perform music, high caliber music at a very high standard, it inspires other musicians and other people what the importance of arts do for, I mean, there's been studies and studies and studies how music in schools help kids with their grades. And to have some players that they can come, or musicians come in here, or anybody that want to hear a professional orchestra, it's right here in Tupelo. They don't have to go to Memphis, they don't have to go to Birmingham, they can come right here. That inspires them to do well. And that's why I think is one of the most important is make the arts here, the music arts here, as good as we can possibly do.
Having a symphony orchestra as part of a community, as part of a community's culture, is a signifier, a barometer of goodness in the community. It is something that can cost a lot of money, a lot of resources, takes a lot of effort, and you must have the musicians and the audience to support it. And usually that's associated with a large metropolitan center, one that can support an orchestra financially, but also to have the number of musicians who live in the area and can come and play, and have the corporations that can help support a non-profit organization and help them thrive. To think that the North Mississippi Symphony Orchestra is celebrating its 50th anniversary means that we've had 49 years of this kind of support to flourish and be successful. But the most significant aspect of that is that we are in a town now that, as we enter almost the third decade of the 21st century, is still hovering just below 40,000 people. That's astonishing to think that we could have an orchestra, number one, that's a professional orchestra, but number two, accomplishing music at the level that we do. It gives pride to the city. It certainly allows our schools and our other cultural aspects of the city to coalesce. We've heard from Vice President of Toyota North America that one of the reasons why Toyota chose Tupelo as a location for their new North American plant was because of the culture that it's offered here. And of course that's attractive to people that will move from all over the planet to come to this region in northern Mississippi. We use our music as something that raises the quality of life, something that makes life better, something that enriches the culture and community here. We know that music has always been a part of the human existence for as long as history has been recorded. We use music for comfort, for consolation in times of grief. We use music to accompany the most important life ceremonies. It is always a part of what we do. But in addition to those very real and immediate uses of music, music enriches the soul, the heart, the mind, things that are harder to quantify. And by having an orchestra here, we're creating the opportunity for people to connect to one another, to sharpen their minds, to enjoy beauty, to be able to identify and find expression to things that don't have expressions in words or actions or even in visual art sometimes. And that's one of the things that's most exciting to me about music, is this live art form means so many things to so many different people. And even in the same performance, if we have 500 people at a performance, we could have 500 human experiences that are all completely different, yet all completely equal. And being able to bring that to a city, being able to open a window in history and perform a piece that was written 200, 300 years ago, and to play that piece and to provide comfort to someone who's grieving, to provide inspiration for someone who's looking for something, to be inspired, to find something that through music just brings people together in a shared experience. All of these things and a litany of so many more are the result of every single performance that we present. And so having that in a community, and especially in a community this size, that could otherwise never support something of this cultural value, is an accomplishment that's hard to express in words. And I've always been proud of working with the orchestra, but the honor is beyond that which I can express here.